Welcome to WandaVision, CRAMMED. This is the TV series continuation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that kicks off Phase 4 and isn't afraid to get weird, feeling like a cross between the cosmic horror of Annihilation and the YouTube video Too Many Cooks. There are a million Easter eggs and things to watch out for, but we're gonna follow the events themselves as they unfold. Let's go! Immediately, we are thrown into an early 1960s Dick Van Dyke style sitcom starring Wanda Maximoff and her husband Vision. This isn't the real-world reality of the Marvel Universe that we're used to, and Vision's very presence following his bad run-in with Thanos is racking up the questions. It seems the plucky couple has just moved into town, trying to blend in and hide their witch powers and synthetic life form status, as well as getting to know the locals, like their neighbour Agnes, who's got all the helpful sass you could want from a side character. While classic 1960s crosswires hijinks ensues, as Vision invites his boss from the office over for an important dinner, while Wanda thinks, with a little help from Agnes, that she needs to sexy things up for a romantic anniversary evening as a couple. It all seems to follow the classic tropes as they scramble to adjust the evening and validate the mix-up and overly warm greeting just as a Sarkovian thing. They manage to pull things together, but during dinner are both unable to recall where they came from or why they don't have children yet. Vision's boss starts choking on his food, and the characters suddenly feel like they're caught in a Lynchian feedback loop of repeated phrases that halts the flow and gives an unsettling edge to the scene, before Wanda commands Vision to help, as if giving an instruction off script, with our first camera angles that suddenly don't feel like they belong in front of a live studio audience. And then the moment passes, as if never happening at all. The boss, highly impressed with the evening, wants to talk to Vision in the morning about that promotion, and the couple settle in for the credits to roll, only for the show to be observed in a real-life monitoring room by someone taking notes. In episode 2's Bewitched-style late 60s format, the sleeping couple is interrupted by some bumps in the night, and bring the beds together for some bumping of their own. They're practicing a magic act for the local talent show fundraiser, because if Westview is to be their new home, they're gonna have to fit in. But a deeper resounding bump that day leads Wanda to discover a red helicopter in her rosebushes, ominous by its colourful appearance and sword logo. But Agnes interrupts her train of thought to provide a rabbit for their show. They're off for a ladies' lunch to meet the other housewives and need to impress the judgmental head of the gang, Dottie, who's on all the committees and running this fundraiser for the children. And Wanda befriends Geraldine, another new lady to the neighbourhood. But during the cleanup, something strange happens as Dottie seems to break character during a moment of stress and demands to know who Wanda really is and why she's here, while the radio static broadcasts a voice that asks, who's doing all this? Meanwhile, at the neighbourhood watch meeting, Vision eats a stick of gum that manages to jam up his insides and cause him to malfunction. So now he's using his genuine abilities to impress the locals just a little bit too much, and Wanda has to cover their tracks by making each superpower look like a simple stage illusion with a little bit of post-production. And to keep the show running smoothly and cover Vision's mistakes, she teleports Geraldine into the mystery cabinet before clearing out his issue. Fortunately, they're a hit with the neighbourhood, and the planning committee gives them a fundraising round of applause for the children, with Geraldine trying to fathom why she was outside the stage area and then suddenly inside the show. Well, it looks like Wanda is indeed now pregnant, and after yet another bump in the night, they head out front to discover a beekeeper bearing that sword logo emerge from the sewer, and Wanda appears to be in control, as she simply says no, and rewinds the footage to their previous moment at home, updating the entire show into glorious Technicolor. Episode 3 is an amalgamation of 70s family sitcoms, where the Westview town doctor confirms her pregnancy is already 4 months along, despite it having only been 12 hours. The doctor leaves for his Bermuda holiday, and their neighbour Herb seems to be glitching in his role of trimming the hedge. Vision, as if becoming himself outside of the show's atmosphere for a moment, tells Wanda that something feels wrong, but as if the scene is suddenly cut, it's never happened at all. It's time to redecorate for the baby that's now already kicking at 6 months and causing the odd hiccup in Wanda's magic. In fact, as it matures at an accelerated rate, Wanda's pregnancy is causing all sorts of magical mishaps. So Vision heads off to get the doctor back, while a 70s sassy Geraldine pops over for a chat, as Wanda tries to hide the baby bump and a living stalk that's materialized in the house. She seems unable to magically control things related to the pregnancy, and upon hearing a noise, Geraldine Geraldine drops her accent in a moment of genuine concern, before slipping back into the role as if it never happened. Fortunately, the Doctor's car won't start, so he's still in town, lamenting that no one is ever able to escape the place, before Vision snatches him up to hurry back home, where there's no more hiding the tummy, as the baby is due, and Geraldine steps up to provide emotional support and help deliver the baby. Vision and the Doctor arrive just too late, but not completely, as it turns out that Wanda is having twins, and so Billy and Tommy Maximoff are introduced to this world. Out front, however, Herb and Agnes seem uncharacteristically concerned about Geraldine, who has no husband, no family, and no home. Herb seems to be trying to tell Vision something, but Agnes stops him with a look of fear. And just like that, they slip back into their characters. And as Wanda recalls her own twin brother Pietro, she sings a Sarkovian lullaby they knew as children. And as if partially lifting a spell, Geraldine blurts out that he was killed by Ultron. And Wanda turns on her, realizing that she's a trespasser that doesn't belong in her narrative. And as Vision rushes in concerned, she's already gone. And with that, the aspect ratio on Westview changes, taking us outside the town into reality, where she's ejected out of a TV-like barrier in a reef of energy, surrounded by agents. So it's time for a flashback, as we get to take a first-hand look at people rematerializing during the unsnapping from Avengers Endgame. In a crowded hospital, it's pure chaos, as Captain Monica Rambeau, Maria's daughter from Captain Marvel, returns amidst confusion to discover her mother died 3 years ago of cancer, 2 years after she herself was snapped out of existence. Cut to the Sentient Weapon Observation Center, known as SWORD, 3 weeks later, where she reports back into work to discover that under director Tyler Hayward, their manned mission space job has mostly devolved into observing crazy threats from outer space, seeing as things in the MCU have gotten pretty funky since the good old days of Phase 1. So back to work, but her first assignment is to go act as a liaison to the FBI and help Agent Jimmy Woo track down a missing informant under the Witness Protection Program. But it's weird, as the local forces outside the town think Westview doesn't even exist, like a blind spot in their awareness. And after a drone disappears, Monica discovers an invisible barrier surrounding the town, before getting sucked in. So now SWORD starts to investigate directly, and having no idea what they're looking at, bring in a team of mixed scientists, including Dr. Darcy Lewis from the 4 films, who quickly discovers a large amount of background cosmic radiation coming from the town that seems to be broadcasting a signal on old TV wavelengths. So they set one up, and Darcy, Wu, and the rest of SWORD tune into WandaVision, the real-time sitcom alternative reality that seems to be happening inside the barrier. And they're also confused as to why Vision is playing one of the lead roles when at least he should be dead. And it turns out Darcy is the one taking notes. Director Tyler Hayward tries sending in a man through the sewers under the barrier to investigate, but the thing extends down as well as up, and he is transformed into something more appropriate to the 60s setting, a beekeeper, which Wanda then kicks from her show. Meanwhile, the other characters are identified as being actual real people from the town, who have somehow been rewritten to play as characters in Wanda's reality, though no ID yet found for Agnes, and they discover that Monica is in there too, and it was Jimmy who was trying to talk to Wanda by transmitting through the radio before their efforts were cut by that hard edit. They catch up to episode 3 where Geraldine, i.e. Monica, is edited out of the show, realizing the broadcast is being censored. While inside the Westview reality, Wanda used her power to blast the trespasser all the way out of town and through the barrier without killing her, before cleaning up the evidence. This whole thing might be Wanda's doing. That's where Vision came in, but that unwelcome reality check makes Wanda see him for a moment as his former corpse form, a dead shell reanimated to act like Vision, but not alive. And Vision himself seems to recognize even more that something isn't right. The super parents still have to look after the babies, but Wanda confirms that they can't be affected by her own magic, and they continue to wail. Thankfully, Agnes pops in and has a few tricks up her sleeve for making kids quiet, but Vision, in a parental panic, doesn't trust her with them, and Agnes, as if breaking character during a recording, asks Wanda directly if they want to take that one again from the top and let her take the kids. and after a weird moment, Wanda laughs this off, despite Agnes not fully dancing to her tune. But this meta timeout happens right in front of Vision, who is openly confused by the exchange, and the babies in the blink of an eye are now little boys. I guess you can't control kids, no matter how hard you try. Back in reality, everyone gets a briefing on Wanda's past with her brother Pietro, and although Monica describes her mind control as a horrible experience governed by Wanda's own grief, she doesn't actually believe that Wanda herself has any direct evil intent. Well, Hayward lets them all know that she had actually stormed Sword HQ 9 days ago and stolen Vision's corpse from their decommissioning area before bringing him here and putting up the 5-mile hexagonal barrier around the town. She has him playing the role of husband and father, but he's also Vision, and it's a matter of time before he learns the truth. The kids have found a cute dog and want to keep him, and Dad gets a preemptive sense that Agnes is about to pop over just before she conveniently brings the doghouse through the door. Wanda is not really hiding her magic anymore, which troubles her husband, but their friendly neighbor had nothing to say about the kids growing up instantly from babies, or even when they accelerate their ages to 10 in order to be old enough to keep the pupper. Then at work he somehow intercepts some of Dr. Darcy's outside report findings on the hex barrier over the town, and more curious than ever, he tries phasing his colleague's mind out of the spell. This momentarily frees the original person, who is horrified at being in the sunken place, whilst constantly acting against his will. Passing into the hex transformed Monica's mind, body, and clothes into something appropriate to the episode setting. So they try a drone made back in the 80s that won't require any change to fit in with the times, so that Monica can talk to Wanda. But Director Hayward had also loaded it with missiles, and instead tries to kill her to end the hex and save the town. That was a mistake. Maximoff strides straight out into the reality of the Sword Forward operating base and returns the drone that's seething with her energy and tells them all to leave her alone. Monica believes Wanda had trusted her on at least some level, letting her be in Westview for a reason, and wants to help. But Maximoff sees Hayward as part of yet another group trying to take her life away from her again, and she reinforces the barrier of the hex. Sadly, in the meantime, Sparky the dog has died from eating some poisoned leaves in Agatha's bushes, and Wanda makes the children face their grief, forbidding them from any more accelerated aging just to cheat their way through life. The kids know that Wanda can bring people back, which openly surprises Agnes, but the hypocrite witch tells them that death is permanent. And later that evening, Vision reveals that he's become aware of Wanda's mind control over the town, continuing to argue with her past the end credits that she started rolling to end the episode, and demanding to know about the Maximoff anomaly. He can't remember anything from before Westview, and Wanda, although controlling the narrative, claims she's not dictating everything, and that even she can't remember how this all started. And out of nowhere, and not by her doing, there's a knock at the door. Her brother Pietro has arrived in town, not the Quicksilver of the Marvel Universe, but recast as the Quicksilver from the X-Men series instead. Blowing people's minds. Well, now it's a 90s era Malcolm in the Middle style reality where Tommy and Billy talk to the camera and get quick flashback inserts. The presence of Uncle Pietro is an injection of energy, and for Halloween, Wanda and Vision are dressing as themselves from their comic book days. But Wanda is concerned that her brother is here and fitting into the narrative, because it's not part of her design. And even Vision is making plans without telling her. He's going on neighborhood patrol duty apparently, while the family get dressed for Halloween. The town, for the first time, is full of children, which Vision had noted the lack of during their earlier argument. And whilst outside, Wanda tests Pietro's memory of their childhood, but he's far too busy causing high-speed mischief, which one of the kids has inherited too. Vision, in the meantime, is actually investigating out near the edge of town to discover that people's forced actions become more basic the further out he gets, as if operating on less resources. And over near the barrier's edge, they're simply frozen in place. It's a creepy sight, and Vision flies up for a better view to find Agnes by the border. Unfreezing her mind, she recognizes him as one of the Avengers, but a dead one, confirming that Wanda won't let anyone leave. So he heads out past the edge of town. Pietro is aware that Wanda has been controlling everyone, clearly existing outside of her spell, but as her brother isn't going to give her a hard time over it. He's just impressed and curious as to how she managed to do all of this, but Wanda remembers no specifics, just that she felt completely alone. Back on the base, Darcy, Monica, and Jimmy are not impressed with Director Hayward's earlier missile strike, so he throws them off base. But instead of leaving, they shake off the guards to operate on their own, much to Darcy's surprise. They access the SWORD database low-key to discover that Hayward already has a way to monitor inside the Hex, and that he's been specifically tracking Vision. Monica wants to go back in again, but Darcy has seen her blood work. Passing the barrier has transformed her cells on a molecular level, and there's no telling what another trip might do to her. But Monica is determined, heading out with Jimmy to meet a friend for some backup, while Darcy stays on base to try to hack into more of Hayward's files. Meanwhile, Vision has reached the edge of a barrier and begins to force his way out into reality. The effort comes at great cost, and unlike those who existed before the Hex went up, trying to leave the area is destroying him. Darcy tries to help and ends up handcuffed, whilst he desperately calls out that the people inside need help. And inside, young Billy is able to sense their father is in danger. Pietro seems unconcerned, with one comment too many about Vision being re-killed again, so Wanda blasts him aside, focusing her powers to expand the border of the Hex and recontain Vision within it. This envelops the SWORD base and most of its agents, transforming them into a circus show on the edge of town, while Hayward narrowly escapes. So it's been a rough night. Wanda is wrecked, and the kids have noticed that things keep shifting around the house, that Mum can't control anymore. Tommy's got that super speed, while Billy's inherited psychic powers, hearing the mental noise of the town. The kids are concerned about Uncle Pietro, and Wanda confirms that man is not their uncle, but that she doesn't have any other answers. She's at her mental wit's end, and thankfully Agnes is there just in time to have the kids round her house and give Wanda some space, although she does mention that she bit a kid once to camera. And in Wanda's own time to get her head straight, a voice behind the camera breaks convention and asks if she thinks she deserves this. The expansion of the Hex thankfully stopped, and Vision awakes to the converted former SWORD base in their new roles. Everyone's doing an aside to camera, and Darcy is trapped in the role of the juiciest escape artist in town. Vision frees her mind, and they set out for a catch-up session where she explains pretty much the whole events of the MCU from the Age of Ultron up to the end of Infinity War. But the Edge of Westview goes full Truman Show on the two of them in order to delay their movements. And fed up with the weird formatting of this existence, Vision flies off to take action. Meanwhile, over at Agnes's place, the kids are enjoying the break, and Billy likes that it's quieter here. Unlike most of the town, Agnes's mind is closed to him, which seems to repulse her. Monica has met up with her contact from the old space days of SWORD to get a hardcore space rover to force entry back into Westview, and gets immediately rejected, even at ramming speed. The best she manages is to get half of it rewritten into an old truck before she bails. But she won't give up, and she forces her way through the barrier on foot. The Hex rewrites the role of everything that comes through, but Monica's cells have already been modified twice, and this time she uses her childhood memories to reconcile the splitting personas and unify herself against the barrier, coming out of the other side more than the person she was going in, now seeing on an expanded wavelength. So she tries to convince Wanda to drop the barrier, and is once again rebuffed. But Monica's starting to flex her new muscles, and continues to try to make a connection with Maximoff, almost getting through. But Agnes interjects, and takes Wanda back over to her place to get away from all the stress. She pops the kettle on, and guides Wanda down to the basement, who wants to see her children, and is sensing that something something is wrong. But the space continues on like a stone dungeon, and the aspect ratio of the show shifts back into reality. This place is not part of the Hex. And so Agatha Harkness finally reveals herself as the evil witch that's really been pulling the strings this whole time, with her own TV intro that shows her behind the scenes, manipulating every episode and conjuring up Pietro, as well as killing the dog, manipulating Wanda's mental state the whole time. And peeking in on the property, Monica is now able to directly see the purple energy of Agatha's lair, before being caught by Pietro. So let's take a look back to Salem, Massachusetts in 1693, where a coven of witches convened to execute one of their own for studying forbidden evil arts. But Agatha Harkness has already grown too powerful to submit, and as they try to destroy her, she instead siphons off their power, absorbing their very life force, including that of her own mother. So in modern day, she's very interested in Wanda, who, despite not seeming to know the fundamentals of witchcraft and safe spaces, has been using witch-like powers to put a transmutation spell over an entire town's reality, while mind-controlling its entire population. Agatha is just burning to know her secret, and almost got it when controlling Pietro. So it's time for a direct follow-up, as Agatha forces Wanda to relive key moments of her life and discover the trigger point for producing such powerful magic, starting with her childhood in Sarkovia, where her father used to sell bootleg DVDs, and the family would watch old sitcoms together. But during armed conflict, her parents were killed, and the children lay in terror at the threat of an undetonated Stark missile for 2 days. But this trauma isn't what Agatha is looking for. So next up is her time being radicalized by those events as a Hydra volunteer. And it's here that Loki's scepter reacts to her presence, and the Mind Stone within it grants her its energy, where so many others had failed. But there's something else present in that moment as well. Something that a power had edited out of even Hydra's knowledge. She gained power directly from the Infinity Stone, but it was also amplifying something in her that was already there. And after her brother's death, as she sought more escapism in sitcom TV shows, just like during most of her life, her relationship with Vision began to blossom. He's someone who has never experienced loss, because he's never had someone to lose. And without him there in her life, she arrived at Sword for his body, except she did not raid the facility the way director Hayward described it. He actually allowed her to view the decommissioning of Vision's remains, and oddly it's him who first suggests the idea of Wanda's power being able to bring him back online. It's a tough sight for her, and they won't let her bury $3 billion worth of man-machine in a grave, with Hayward almost wanting her to try something. So Wanda says her goodbyes and leaves without the body. And so she drives to the quiet town of Westview, where before the events of Infinity War, they had purchased a plot of land to build a home that they could grow old in together. And it's here that in her grief, she breaks down. Her witch powers start to increase to envelop the town. And it's the separate energy of the Infinity Stone stored within her that is able to directly recreate Vision, who was powered by the original thing, setting her escapist fantasy into motion of her sitcom reality world. Agatha has seen enough and brings out the kids on a leash. Wanda is a being that is able to cause spontaneous creation using chaos magic. Her abilities might have been activated by exposure to the Infinity Stone, but she is in fact a legend among magic users, the Scarlet Witch. And so that means this whole time, Sword have been in possession of Vision's real body. And it turns out that Hayward had pushed that 80s drone strike on Wanda just so that she would deflect it using her own unique brand of energy magic, so that he could use it to power the corpse shell of the former Avenger. Agatha's plan is to absorb all of Wanda's magic power, draining her in the process, while the kids stay inside, even pulling a cheeky Wizard of Oz as White Vision arrives to confuse her more and squeeze her head with his programming set to destroy her and her husband. But Vision, the real one, which is in fact the fake one, arrives to protect his family. So while good and bad Vision fight and phase in the skies, Agatha uses her superior witch experience and information from her Book of the Damned to continue to hit her on a psychological level. Releasing the townspeople from Wanda's spell, they force her to address her actions and beg to be freed. They want to see their loved ones and to no longer have to feel her pain. Wanda tries to make out that she's not abusing their human rights by choking them for a moment, before finally opening up the hex out of guilt to allow them to leave. But that's causing Good Vision to not quite exist, including her children, causing a bit of a conundrum and making her close the hex again for their sake. But not before the sneaky sword team drove in through the gaps. Meanwhile, Monica, who's under Quicksilver house arrest, realizes he's just another trapped townsperson after all, and removes Agatha's control. So while the witches fight and the kids take on sword, she arrives just in time to stop Hayward from killing children at the peak of her new photon power. And Darcy rams him with a truck to put an end to his evil director scheming. Vision on Vision action continues, like an alternative skin selection in Mortal Kombat. But they are both hyper-advanced thinking machines with a British accent, and so they eventually turn the fight into a conversation. White Vision's programming is to destroy Good Vision, but Good Vision doesn't really exist anymore. And with permission, he unlocks all of his former Avenger memories stored away in the files of his former physical body. And White Vision, now with a new sense of self-identity, decides to get the hell out of there. Wanda tries some of her old mind tricks from the Age of Ultron days by digging into Agatha's past, but she's able to pull a reverse Uno and control her own mind, offering to allow Wanda to keep her fantasy world if she gives up her power in return. Agatha has the upper hand, and Wanda fires her energy everywhere, only to have it drained and absorbed as the crone had planned. But in the last moment, she's unable to cast Wanda down, as it looks like the Scarlet Witch is a fast learner, having turned the entire hex into a safe space of her own. And so Wanda owns her new power and status and defeats Agatha under her own terms. And then she locks the mind of the evil witch away, choosing her plucky Agnes disguise to now instead be her permanent prison. It all comes to an end, and Wanda allows the hex to slowly collapse for true, spending one final evening with her family. As the walls slowly collapse towards the house, the proud parents tuck the children in after an eventful day, and Wanda is grateful to know them. Then, in their final moments of the hex, Vision asks to know just what he really is. And she tells him the piece of the Mind Stone that lives within her, blood, wires, and bone, her sadness and her hope, but mostly her love. Who knows what he might be next? And with that, she is able to say goodbye, having worked through her grief, and only at the cost of the human rights of every single person in town. So she apologizes to Monica and then leaves before the police arrive, to start a new chapter in understanding her powers as the Scarlet Witch, and in her studies, managing to hear an echo of her children. Oh my god. Meanwhile, as Jimmy leads the clear-up and Hayward gets arrested, Monica, with her new power, is approached by the Skrull, who might have a job for her among the stars. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed having WandaVision crammed inside of you. Putting together these full recaps takes ages, so a great big thank you to everybody who's liked, commented, and subscribed. I read them all, and it's great fun. So let me know in the comments what we're going to be cramming for a future video, and I'll see you next time. Take care.